All you had to do today was look away for a second, and you would have missed probably the biggest portion of an interview in 5 seconds this entire fall camp. Noah, did Rich Rodriguez just leak the offensive depth chart to us in an interview? That's what we're discussing today, man. And if you haven't saw it, it'll be up on the screen right now as we're talking about it. Rich Rodriguez, I believe the question, it was something about him pulling the board up to his face about calling plays, and it's him cussing out the court or whatever it is. But on the back of his card had the West Virginia depth chart, and of course, us being the detectives that we are, and just putting the pieces there together, I think we just kind of got a leak of what the offense looks like as of August 12th, Noah. So let's just dive right into it. And before we do, this is obviously not 100% certain. Some of these guys could definitely be wrong. It is obviously a little blurry. And also, this is still August 12th. There is still time for players to flip up and down the depth chart, not only win a spot, but lose a spot. That is key and crucial to remember when discussing a depth chart leading up to week one of a college season. So, Noah, without further ado, buddy, let's start with the biggest storyline. The quarterback room as of right now, Nico Miracle, QB1 with Jalen Henderson slotting in at that second spot and Max Brown in the 3. I'll go ahead and just go down the list and then we'll discuss things as we go. Running back room, Jaheim White, obviously, no doubt about it. Looks like RB2 as of right now, Noah, due to injuries and some other concerns in the running back room. It looks like Dior Hubbard with Sincere Bowers as 3, and then Jalen Knighton, who is fighting some waiver stuff, not practicing, all that at RB4. The wide receiver room, you're looking at Cam Vaughn as the X receiver, Jaden Bray as your Z receiver, and Rodney Gallagher as your Y receiver, with Preston Fox being the primary backup in the Z spot and Oren Singleton being the primary backup in that Y spot. Tight end room led by Grayson Barnes as the projected starter right now. Ryan Ward in the 2 spot on the depth chart with Jacob Barrett there slotting in at the 3. And then the key room I think we're going to talk about the most in this video, the offensive line. Tykeus Crawford at right tackle, Malik Agbu from at right guard from Texas. Center, Kimo Monaconole, holy smokes. Left guard, Walter Youngbear, and left tackle, Nick Cray. Noah, I'm done talking, man. Give me, where are you at right now? I mean, my head's kind of spinning. I'm stuttering as I'm thinking and trying to talk about it. Take it away, man. Tell me what you think about this first kind of view of the offensive depth chart.
Gage, I think I'm going to look at this from the perspective as what we would expect to be the biggest news coming out of camp was who's going to get that starting quarterback position, right? Who's going to be QB1 on the depth chart? What I'm going to tell you guys is don't overreact to this because we've known all along that Nico Henderson and possibly Max Brown would be battling for this. In the first and second game of the season, I think you're going to get a heavy dose of Nico and Jalen Henderson. But on the other side of this, I think the offensive line is the part to talk about in this whole thing because we've been hearing, Rich Rod's been kind of hit or miss on when he speaks about the offensive line as who's going to start. My right tackle needs to be able to play right guard. My left tackle needs to be able to play center, so on and so forth, right? He said that multiple times in interviews. To know that West Virginia is pretty much getting 3 SEC guys on their offensive lines, I think that is absolutely phenomenal. Between Tykeus Crawford, Malik Agbo, and Kimo, and that last name, very hard to pronounce, Gage. I think you did a wonderful job. I'm not going to try it again. From LSU, I think he has LSU and Ole Miss ties.
Good luck to every play-by-play announcer, laying that one out in the middle of a game.
Yes. So, that is huge news when you look at the depth chart. Gage, I think the question is, how much are you willing to buy into this leaked depth chart, right? Because we all know, like you said, there are possibilities. People move up, people move down. What do you think about the quarterback position, Gage? Because I think that's what our viewers are really going to be keyed in on. What do you think about the position?
So kind of a hot take, maybe a hot take. I don't know. Quarterback on this projected depth chart is actually the least of my certainty, stamped 100%. Out of all the other positions, I definitely feel like this is accurate and kind of right on point. The offensive line looks about what we expected. We just didn't know where guys were going to exactly be. I think the offensive line actually on paper looks extremely good. Tight end room, the only surprise in that room was Ryan Ward slotting at that 2 spot. But if you remember, after the scrimmage, the the scrimmage last Saturday, Rich Rod kind of had a couple choice words like praising Ryan Ward, big catch, stuff like that. So him slotting in at tight end too is cool to see. Wide receiver room, obviously our wide receiver coach has talked time and time again about the competition level in that room. And I think that only raises kind of the attention to detail in that room, if that makes sense. We all know, Noah, the big three for the offense production is going to come from Nico or Henderson, and then Jaheim White or Cam Vaughn. So wide receiver room for the most part, no surprise outside of Cam Vaughn. Happy to see Jaden Bray. I think I'm Jaden Bray truther number one, biggest believer in him this upcoming season. And then your guy Rodney Gallagher. I think looking at it, he might be the most replaceable. Hear me out. I'm not saying replaceable as in like he's not a good player, things like that. But Oren Singleton, Preston Fox, a couple of these other receivers, Christian Hamilton. There's a couple guys that have been brought in. I feel like that Y position specifically could be the one where we see a little bit of rotation, depending on how Jaden Bray plays on that perimeter, if he plays and maintains the outside receiver role. Running back room, I mean, it's nice to see Bowers there slot in as the RB3 with a lot of uncertainty with Knighton and things like that. Hubbard, I guess, is probably one of the biggest surprises on this depth chart, a guy that we haven't really talked a ton about or anything like that. So it'd be interesting to see how that room divides up. But yeah, I mean, I think the quarterback room, that's the one where I'm still like, it doesn't matter what the depth chart is because we're still going to see both guys leading into the season. And we also know how quick Rich Rod is to pull the plug on a quarterback. So that's what I'm saying. You kind of have to take this with a grain of salt. It's just a depth chart. It's important. It gives us our first kind of clear-cut look at what this offense is going to look like, but it's not to say all be all. There will definitely be changes from that depth. Hell, Noah, he might change the depth chart just because it accidentally leaked to us. So like this scrimmage coming out that they're having this upcoming Saturday, we might see Khalil Wilkins as quarterback one. Like, I don't know. I could just see him doing something crazy to mess with us. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. You hit the point about the offensive line. That feels like a really, really patent like offensive line. I really like that.
Yeah, I really like where that's coming from. And whenever we talk about college football in general, Gage, we always talk about the SEC and Big Ten, and we feel like the big gap between the ACC, Big 12, ACC, Big 12, and then Big Ten and SEC is the offensive line play. Well, when you can line up at a Big 12 game in a Big 12 game, knowing that three of your offensive linemen came from SEC schools. Tykeus Crawford, I mean, Arkansas is one of the most pronounced offensive line in college football. Has been. That's what their head coach leans on. Don't know if anybody watched the SEC Any Given Saturday take on Netflix there. But, I mean, they preach about how good that offensive line is. And that's because that's what their head coach believes in. Also grabbing Agbo from Texas, just huge. It's just even Walter Youngbear, man. I think he's going to turn some heads this year because I
Absolutely.
think what he's going to bring is such an very experienced guy in that room. Even though he's coming from Group of Five, Rich Rod always kind of hits on it there, saying it does. He doesn't worry about that. Those guys that are coming from Group of Five schools coming up because if you weren't able to play, you wouldn't be here. You obviously showed something. We know you have the talent to do it. If you disagree with that take, then you pretty much say Rich Rod doesn't know how to evaluate talent, and we all know that's false, Gage.
Well, look at the defensive side of the ball. I've talked about it time and time again. The major contributors on the defensive side of the ball are all mid-major guys. Michael Coates, Nevada. I'm just like I said, Fred Perry, Jacksonville State, Jamori Robinson, UTS, just tons all over the place. Chase Wilson, Colorado State. So we need Zach Alley to maybe pull a Rich Rod and pull his sheet up in his next interview. We'd like that to cover the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, continue on with what you're going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I just think outside of what we're looking at this and kind of thinking we got our hands on the starting lineup, what's really interesting here is Rich Rod's been hinting towards it in pressers that, at some time you have to kind of take a step back and say, okay, there's only so many reps to give. We got to go. We have to see, who we're giving these reps to. I think that's what you got from this. These guys that are, in that key one on the depth chart, probably 1 through 3 at each of these positions on that depth chart, that's who's getting the reps. That is who is soaking up the reps. I think you're exactly right on the Rodney Gallagher Y position take. there are a lot of bodies that can be playmakers in that position because I think that's where a lot of our speed lies, Gage. I think that's where that,
Gerard Bowie. Yeah.
yeah, there's just a lot of takes in the sense as to who can play that position at an effective level. And I think they brought in a lot of guys that can really, really be explosive given the chance. So I think that Y position will be very interesting to see how that ends up.
Before we hit our question of the day that I'll be asking you, I want you to hit real quick on his sheet. Obviously, some caller codes. No, I want you to hit on that. Looks like nothing that we don't already know, right? Looks like Jeff Weimer and Ty Edwards are obviously not factored into the depth chart because of the eligibility stuff. They're not able to practice. So, speak a little bit about that, and just kind of some of the other different callers that are on that sheet.
So Orange, just to hit on what you said there, Orange, I believe Ty Edwards and Weimer were two guys in that orange coded caller, highlighted, I guess you'd say, in orange. What we think that is eligibility, right? We have a good thought that these guys are going to be able to play, but we're not for sure, so they're in orange. So we obviously know that if given the chance to play this year, they will be making this depth chart. Blue, this is just my best guess. Don't quote me on this, but I think blue is guys that are true freshmen coming to the program. I think what gave me that is the quarterback and the tackle position, I believe. Scotty Fox Jr. obviously highlighted in blue. And then the tackle, I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head. Don't have it in front of me. But that tackle, I believe, is a freshman as well. The two collars that are kind of interesting to me are yellow and green, Gage. And I'm not exactly sure what those are. We kind of went back and forth. Maybe guys that have, lacking, are good on the confidence. Coaches are confident in these guys. They will move up the depth chart. We're not sure. I'm not really sure on the yellow collar, Gage.
Could just be banged up. Could just be banged up. I don't know. I was kind of thinking something along the lines of injury concern. But yeah, once again, I mean, Cameron Cancer. We definitely feel pretty good about the orange with the eligibility stuff. That's kind of clear code. But the others, yeah, definitely thought that was interesting for sure. So, buddy, to wrap this up, a question of the day, because Sincere Bowers there, a lot of talk around him about his playmaking abilities. How are we going to capitalize on his speed and everything he brings to the field? What, with a lot of kind of question marks about that wide receiver room in terms of a lot of talent there, how are we going to get everybody on the field? Could you see somehow, some way, Rich Rod and Trickett get Sincere Bowers involved in the pass game and maybe some certain sets or things like that at that wide position in the wide receiver room? I was kind of thinking about that, toying with it, and the idea, speed can play at any position, that's for sure.
I think it's very possible. And whenever you watch his highlight tape, Sincere Bowers highlight tape, you kind of see him there. His coaches in community college put him in situations where if a backer's guarding him, they're sending him on a go, slant, so on and so forth. They know that he has speed, he has will. So I think it's very possible you see him lining up wide, maybe a little Tavon Austin-esque, little touch pass types of situations just to get him on the field, because obviously when you have Jaheim White in that backfield, you have Dior Hubbard in the backfield, and then with the possibility of Ty Edwards, it's going to be a very, very heavy room in the sense it's going to be hard to get all those guys on the field, and Rich Rod's going to get talent on the field. So if he thinks he has big playmaking ability, he will see, and you're going to see there's probably going to be certain packages put in just for him for his speed if they think they have a advantage out there by putting him in the slot or something of that nature.
Yeah, if he's being schemed up by Rich Rod, he could definitely have a very successful role, even if it's a minimal role in this offense when he's in on certain sets, packages, things of that nature.
I think you're going to see. I think he would be one of my guys that could very possibly be lead kick returner, punt returner possibility.
Yeah, because you need that playmaking on the field as much as you can get it. It just adds to that explosiveness that all offenses that are successful have to be able at times to just hit you with chunk plays. And when you're a playmaker with speed like that, you'll find your way on the field more times than not. So, guys, we appreciate you watching. Final takeaway from this is, yes, it's neat. It's cool that we kind of have an idea and a look, but still do not kind of take full stock into this. Do not start running away with the idea that Nico is QB1. That is obviously the least confidence that we feel about the entire offense. Both guys are good. It's just one's got to win, and it's going to come down to the game reps. But make sure that you're subscribed for the giveaway. 500 subscribers, raffling that stuff off. We appreciate you guys watching the last few videos. Noah and I've been really appreciative. All the likes, comments, views on the last couple videos. Absolutely awesome to see. get some more subscribers here and keep on rolling into the football season, man. Appreciate you guys watching. Know anything else, or you good, my man?
Yeah, just like, comment, subscribe. We'd love, like we said, Gage and I always talk about this. We would love to do a mailbag video where we just answer viewers with their comments. Leave any questions, any thoughts, even something that we can kind of debate on, go back and forth on with you guys. We'd love to do it. So like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate you guys watching.
Yeah, believe it or not, this guy and I, we don't agree on absolutely everything in the world. So for sure, man. All right, appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you in the next one, man.